This video is intended to walk you through the differences in citation in non-science literature versus science literature. And hopefully this will help you properly cite your assignments for this course. In other words, have you do it the way that I want you to do it. So let's start out with this article that came from Nation and World. It was written by a science journalist or a journalist that specializes in scientific topics. And it's about adding friendly bacteria to skin lotion to ward off infection. So as we go through, this is probably the type of citation that you have noticed or the type of citation that you've learned in your English classes. So at the beginning, we start out with a statement that's kind of an introduction to what they're going to be talking about. And then what they do is, here they're talking about researchers. They talk about the specific researchers here, and we've got a direct quote from Dr. Richard Gallo. And as you go through, you'll see other places where, generally speaking, if they do have an in-text citation, they mention the name of the researcher, and it's after a direct quote. And so as we go through and we take a look at this, that's the type of citation that we're going to see. Now let's go ahead, and I found the paper that they got the information from, and let's take a look at the differences. So you'll notice that, one, there's a whole lot of authors represented, and these are all the people who did the actual lab work looking at putting friendly skin bacteria into lotion to prevent infection. And so they're all listed here. And you'll notice an abstract. For my assignments, I'm not going to ask for an abstract, but we don't cite, we do not do internal citations within the abstract. It is a summary of the paper. But let's take a look at the introduction. If you look here, here's an in-text citation. This is how they do it in this particular form. And this, if we scroll down to the bottom of the paper, 1 through 4, we're going to see they're referring to these papers or to these people who did the research that they're referring to. So, for this statement about antimicrobial peptides and different immune cells, they're referring back to the original research. And if you'll notice through the introduction, they do that a lot. Anytime it's research that they didn't find in their own lab, they cite it. They do an in-text citation, and they cite the paper that they found the information in. So that's different from what you learned in your science class, in your English classes. If we go down to results, you'll see that there's not any in-text citations. They will refer to figures, but this is the research that they've done. They were actually in the lab doing this research, and so they don't have to cite it because they generated the information. Any information that they did not generate, they refer back to, they reference the folks who originally did this. So let's go ahead and get past the results section, and let's go to the discussion. Okay? So you notice, oh, we start citing people again because they're connecting their research into what has already been done. They did this in the introduction, and they're taking their actual results from their experiments, and in the discussion, they're tying it into what other people have done. So for the assignments that I give you, I want you to do it like what is shown in this research paper, because I want you to get into the habit of giving credit to the people who did the actual lab research. And you're basically going to do an introduction and a discussion, because in my classes you're not going to be doing actual research. So let's go ahead and move on to an example of a paper and an example of a poster. So let's take a look at a properly cited student paper. This is from the introduction. This is the first paragraph. And so they go through and they talk about the nature of Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and then they cite the author that they got it from. So if we go down to the references section, we have the full reference here. It's enough information that I can find this paper if I wanted to. But you'll see that there's an in-text citation to mark or tag the information that goes with which reference. Then we have some different information, and then we have another in-text citation that goes with the next full reference. Now further on in the paper, there's at least 2 other references that are referred to, but this gives you an idea that whenever there's a statement that you didn't come up with yourself, that you didn't do the research, you've got to reference it. Otherwise, it's plagiarism, no matter how unintentional. So now let's take a look at a poster. So here is a poster. Actually, I came up with this one. And let's go ahead and take a look at where I've cited things. So I didn't take either of these pictures. So I have in-text citations that refer down to my full reference so that you know where I got these images from. They give credit to the photographer. So, in-text citation, full reference at the bottom. And because this is a poster, everything is on one slide of the PowerPoint, as if I were going to print this out and put it on the wall. So over here in this first section, you'll notice I've got an in-text citation next to the header. That means that my bullet points for the entire section go with the third full reference down here at the bottom. Now over here in this section, you'll notice I've got in-text citations scattered all over the place. It's because every time I switch a topic, and the reader might become confused as to whether this information goes with that reference, I mark it. So this first sentence, or excuse me, this first paragraph, I got the information from 2 different sources. The one marked 3 and 4. They both said approximately the same thing. Now, because this is a new paragraph, I mark at the end of this section with which reference it goes with. Then, even though I'm referencing this one, because it's slightly different things, I want to let you know that it's still from this same reference. Now down here, I'm doing similar things. Over here, I'm switching to just reference number 4. And in all of the sections, you'll notice that I've done this. And this is what I want you to do in your assignments. Now I'll have some examples up in course documents so that you can take a close look at what I want you to do, and you can model your assignments after that, and we won't have any unintentional plagiarism. Oh, and one more thing that I wanted to mention, you notice that I do not have in either the paper or in the poster, I don't have direct quotes. We don't use direct quotes a lot in the sciences. What we do is we paraphrase things. And as an instructor, I definitely want you to paraphrase what you've written, because that shows me that you've understood what you've read, which as an instructor, that's a very important thing for me to know. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them.